Greetings, friends, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Remy Wins a Lot Show. Last week, we took a look at the Nintendo Switch hardware itself, and this week, well, it's available. Today's launch day for the Nintendo Switch system, and for those of us lucky enough to get our hands on this machine, well, we're left with the difficult decision on deciding which games to pick up at launch. This can be an incredibly difficult task, and, well, Nintendo made it a little easier for us, because they didn't release a ton of games at launch. In fact, it's a pretty small library indeed. Today we're going to take a look at some of that software and see what's worth your time and hard-earned money. We're going to start off today by taking a look at some of the more common titles that are ported to the Nintendo Switch. Games like Just Dance 2017 and Skylanders Imaginators, for example. Now, these are fine ports of the game, and to be fair, they run really well. I really like the aspect for Just Dance 2017 that you only have to buy one set of Joy-Cons to provide yourself, well, a 4-player experience. It's a great game at building a party environment, and if you haven't played Just Dance in a while, it might be worth checking out. Now, there's about 1,000 different iterations of these games, and they've even made their way to apps on smart TVs, so honestly, if you've invested money into Just Dance before, you know what you're getting into, and I think the reviews previously speak for themselves. Skylanders Imaginators is kind of the same deal. The one thing I will say that's really nice is it does have the NFC reader built into the Pro Controller and the Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons themselves. So it eliminates the need for the bulky pieces of plastic we've been used to hauling around if you're a Skylanders fan. Game plays well enough, and honestly, it's Skylanders Imaginators as you know it across any other platform. Both of these come with a low to medium recommendation, and it really comes down to your personal feelings and if you're a fan of the franchises. This is, of course, a great party game for the Nintendo Switch, but there's no lack of party environments, so Just Dance maybe can stay regulated to any of your other machines if you've already invested the money into it. And speaking of party games, we're going to move right on to the party game for probably the Switch. 1-2 Switch, and well, this game fell under some flack. It definitely deserved it, because it's a tough game for Nintendo to unveil in that kind of showing. It's not a game you can show on stage, and when you watch people play it, well, you're not quite sure what to make of it. But then you get your hands on this little gem, and I'll tell you, it's a great game, and a super fun party game. Honestly, if you are looking for something to showcase the Switch for what it is, and to have friends over and really enjoy a good time of multiplayer, this game is it. It's full of 28 mini-games, all of which are absolutely ridiculous, and honestly it feels to me as though a more tamed-down WarioWare, and that's fine. It's accessible, easy to play, and with 2 Joy-Cons, you're really ready out of the gate. So the system really almost should have come packaged with this guy. My only tough recommendation with it is, well, its price tag. It's $50, and for a game on what it brings to the table, I think it's great, but that price tag is a lot to swallow on launch day, especially if you're already picking up a few other peripherals and, well, some of the other games we're probably going to touch on that a few of us are excited about. Many of us are going to pick up 1-2 Switch and games like it to showcase to our friends and family and maybe get our significant others playing with us as well. And I think it's incredibly successful at that. This game, even with the price tag, comes at a high recommendation because I really do think it showcases what the Nintendo Switch is bringing to the table. It's goofy, fun, and honestly a room full of these, plus some of your best friends, and a fridge full of some of your favorite adult beverages, and you've got yourself quite the night. I think it's a must-buy if you're picking up the Switch, and that kind of pains me to say at this price point. Boy, is it good to see Bomberman back. I mean, seriously, it's been a long time since this guy has appeared on a major console, let alone a launch console. After the Xbox 360 failed debacle on bringing Bomberman in a new and edgy format, we haven't heard too much from Hudson Soft old mascot. Well, this game brings it back, and it feels honestly very akin to Bomberman 64, and that's phenomenal. The single-player adventure seems well put together, and probably not the longest thing to keep your attention occupied. You'll have some fun and some laughs along the way. I gotta say that the one thing I don't enjoy is all the Bomberman and their personalities. Some of them are just cliches and a little too much for me to handle. Bomberman R doesn't do much to change up the formula, and even after 33 years, it's still classic Bomberman, so if you're a fan of the franchise, you know what you're getting into. If not, you're left with the difficult decision on to which party game you pick up at launch, and honestly, for the $50 price tag, they're both a little short, but I think they're both going to do really well at what they set out to do. It's a personal choice. Well, we're already running pretty low on physical titles to talk about on day one. There are some incredibly awesome downloadable titles available from Nintendo. Snipper Clips is a unique and charming puzzle game in which you and a friend use your bodies to, well, cut away at each other to manipulate the environment and solve puzzles. And it's quite an odd experience and definitely requires a lot of communication between you and the partner playing. It's just so fun and charming that you find yourself smiling and laughing all the way through. The puzzles seem to be engaging enough, and while the challenge is there, I don't think the length will be. It is only $19.99, so if you are looking for a great cooperative game for you and someone personal to sit down with, I think it's well worth it. Fast RMX, or Fast Remix, depending on who you talk to, is a high-octane, super fast racing game, and most of us are going to draw quick parallels between this and the F-Zero franchise. And it's not wrong, to be honest. It's all about high-speed races and using boost pads of varying colors, which require you to switch your engine to these colors to match up to get boost, and I think it's a nice distraction, and at only $20 is probably the closest thing to an F-Zero experience we're going to get on the Switch for a while. Come on, Nintendo, just please. So if you are a fan of racing games, I'd say it's worth your time to look into. It's fast, high-octane, and should be a cool competitive environment, and with up to 8 players on multiple Switch consoles supported, it's a game at only $20 that you and all your friends can throw down and play until Mario Kart comes out. Comes with a pretty high recommendation as well. And last but certainly not least for me is a highlight for a game called I Am Setsuna. Now this is a JRPG and definitely harkens back to the classic golden era of 16-bit JRPGs. Its turn-based and active combat systems kind of provide a lot of similarities to Chrono Trigger. It's a somber game, and honestly it's a darn depressing one if you really play through it, but it's really, really good, and if you haven't played it on Steam or PlayStation 4 as it's available already, it's well worth a download if you're looking for a cool JRPG to get involved with while we're waiting for more titles to come out. Unfortunately, I Am Setsuna is also $40, so at launch this might be a tough game for a lot of people to pick up. So maybe look for a sale on it, or wait until you're done with some of these other titles that you've played to the ground before you really think about investing that much money. I Am Setsuna gets a moderate recommendation, and I'd say take a look at it if you're a JRPG fan. Do I even need to talk about this? If you're buying a Nintendo Switch, I'd say this is probably the first game you pre-ordered. And even if you can't find a Nintendo Switch, you might still have this pre-ordered because you're so hyped about it, it's silly. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is a masterpiece to most already, and it's, well, without a doubt the most important title for the Nintendo Switch. With its relatively weaker launch lineup, this is the game supporting it all, and, well, it's not getting Mario Odyssey until holiday this year. It's going to be the game that a lot of us are playing for hours and hours to come. I will say, if you made a Switch purchase entirely for Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, you aren't wrong. It is available on the Wii U, of course, so no matter how you can play this game, definitely check it out. Its art direction and honestly gameplay are just masterful and wonderfully done, and well, I could sit here and gush about it for a whole video on its own. And everything about this game screams quality, and honestly it's been a long wait for it, and those of us who bought Wii U's expecting to get this title are slightly disappointed that it's now launching simultaneously on 2 hardware again. I think that everything Nintendo did and the Zelda formula itself has undergone some incredible changes, and the Breath of the Wild shows exactly what Nintendo is seeking to do with the Nintendo Switch. The Legend of Zelda comes at an extremely high, absolutely silly, can't believe it's not butter, why haven't you bought this yet recommendation. Honestly, like I said, if you're buying a Switch, you've already got this game pre-ordered, and do buy a physical copy, as well the digital download is absolutely huge and requires, well, pretty much a mandatory memory expansion on the Nintendo Switch itself. And that about does it for the Nintendo Switch launch lineup. Outside of some other digital titles I didn't talk about, World of Goo and Shovel Knight of course making their way on the system, honestly, those come at high recommendations from a lot of people, so you probably didn't need to hear my voice tell you to go buy it if you're already a fan. I can't wait to spend more time with the Switch hardware, and I definitely can't wait to play more games like Zelda Breath of the Wild. And overall, I'd say Nintendo did a pretty bang-out job with the launch. Yeah, a lot of people are going to criticize the fact that Zelda is really the only must-buy game, but if we look back at previous launch lineups for systems, they've all been pretty lackluster, so I'm going to be honest, I'll take Zelda most of the time. And that's all the time we have for today, guys, and just want to say a huge thank you for those of you who came along with me on this journey as we checked out the Nintendo Switch hardware, as well as its launch lineup these last 2 weeks. It's been a long 2 weeks of Nintendo, so next episode we're going to take a look at a game from last year that's called an unfinished masterpiece. And those of you that have played it probably have a vague idea of what I'm talking about. Also, a huge thank you to everyone who liked and shared my last video. It exceeded my expectations by such a large amount it's almost flabbergasting. And thanks to everyone at home who's continuing their support and like, sharing, and subscribing this video as well. All that said, guys, I'm looking forward to next week's episode just as much as these last 2, and honestly, thanks again for all your support at home. And remember, keep playing what you love.